started. A lot of people stuck in traffic. I think I got like 30 text messages today from people. But we're glad you braved the traffic. 2 hours from DC, is that what it was, roughly? So anyway, come on up and grab a seat. Mark Esposito, come on up. John Dinkins, please grab a seat, come on. All right, we're running a little late. The good news is we have some cushion built into our agenda, so we will end on time today. I don't have a lot of time here. I just want to thank our sponsors. They're in the book, and I want to read them out. We have the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, Next, powered by Schulman Rogers, AEG, the Association for Enterprise Growth, Modus Create. We'll be hearing from executives from all of those organizations very soon. I want to thank New York Life, Barry Weinbaum's in the house, TEDCO, thank you, Troy and team. Maryland Tech Council, thank you, Kelly. We're going to hear from Troy and Kelly pretty soon. Buzzy Rocket, Keiretsu Forum, Entrepreneurs Organization, Georgetown University Entrepreneurship, FITSE, Citrine Angels, the Dingman Angels, the Wharton DC Summit, Startup Grind, Blue Venture Investors, Enterprise Transformation Solutions, Ryan and Wetmore, MSBD, Institute for Excellence in Sales, U.S. International Development Center, Founder Institute, and the Baltimore Angels. Let's give it up, please. Yep. I also want to thank our fabulous host committee. Their photos, their beautiful pictures are here in the book. Thank you guys for all of your support and to help bring people to Baltimore, bring investors to the room today. You guys are awesome. I just want to go through the agenda very briefly. We're going to have some introductory remarks from the Dean, from Secretary Anderson, and from Pat Sheridan, who's a serial entrepreneur and one of our lead sponsors. And then Kelly Schultz will give an update on Maryland Tech Council. Troy will give an update on TEDCO. And then we have 5 awesome presenting companies. These are 4.5-minute pitches, so they will be timed and recorded. And hopefully, if you're an investor, you'll be able to talk to our presenting companies who all have tables in the back of the room. And then we will end with a great investor panel. The agenda is in the program book on the inside cover. So we're looking forward to hearing more about what's going on. There's a lot of activity happening, and I'm excited to hear about that. And then we'll end with networking, and we have the room until noon, Dean, roughly? Yeah, so thank you. And speaking of the Dean, I'd like to bring up our host today, Dean Alex Triantis, Dean of the Business School. Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Jan, and welcome everybody. How many of you have been up here before? So that's what I figured, a lot of returning business here. It's delightful to have you all back. If you haven't been, welcome. This is one of our 2 locations for the Carey Business School. Atop Baltimore here. The other one is on Pennsylvania Avenue, across from the Smithsonian Art Galleries. We opened the old museum for those of you that had visited there. That's now a beautiful Hopkins building, so hopefully we'll get you all down there as well. But it's great to have you up here in Baltimore on a beautiful day, even though we're all shaded in here to make sure you all focus. Inc. magazine had an article a couple of weeks ago about Johns Hopkins, and it said Johns Hopkins is a health entrepreneurship hub. And I didn't know it was that stealth, but apparently it is. Hopkins is about to celebrate 150 years in a couple of years of the university, the first American research university. A lot of discovery, a lot of innovation that's come out of Hopkins, but it really wasn't until about 10 years ago that Hopkins became serious about taking all these ideas and turning them into companies, into successful companies. Last year, I think more than $400 million of venture funding went to Hopkins companies started by students, by faculty, and others at the university. And so you can get a sense of the magnitude. No longer stealth, and we're very excited about what's happening here at Hopkins from an entrepreneurship perspective. Our tagline for the Carey Business School, you probably can't see, is build for what's next. So that's what we're always thinking about, is building for great new companies and hoping that a lot of those will stay here in Maryland and Baltimore, and we'll be able to build up the economy even faster. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Tan.
Thank you, Alex. We can't wait to do one at 555 at the old museum in DC. So thank you for all your support, and this is an awesome location. Next, I'd like to bring up Secretary of the Commerce Department, Maryland, State of Maryland, Secretary Anderson. We've been talking for a long time, and so glad to have you join us and share some of your great initiatives. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's just absolutely fantastic to be here. It's always inspiring and endowing to see our investor community, to see all of the work that we do. So it's great. Kevin Anderson, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Commerce. Fantastic for CONNECTpreneur. This is really one of the premier events in our city and our state in supporting tech life in the life sciences sector, and especially in our innovation economy, and really across the region. As we begin to take a look, around in our competition nationally and even extraordinarily, we have one of the best ecosystems, and we're really working really hard to make sure we get it to where it needs to be. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to network and find out and see all of the great work that's going on in the city and all of the great work in the state, and just making such a great use of the time. So just a couple of things I want to share about the Moore Miller administration and our view and our perspective about what's just so important and how we're working and staying focused. And since the administration started, we've just been laser focused on making sure that we strengthen Maryland's economy and we make it more competitive. Some of you may have known we're great, we're strong, asset based, but in a very clear space, we need to become much more competitive, much more robust, and a lot more equitable. And I think all of the teams and the thinking and the spaces that we put into this space is going to make that happen. And our approach is multifaceted. We use an all of government approach, which I think is so important because we're all very clear about ecosystem building and placemaking and what needs to happen to accomplish the outcomes, that we take it across the government. We have to work to make housing more affordable. We have to invest in education, invest in key infrastructure like broadband internet access, and things like fighting to end child poverty. Because at the end of the day, if we aren't clear, if we aren't intentional, and if we aren't specific, we'll build great things, but they may not be in a space to make sure that our society can make sure the benefits and the outcomes put us in the place where we need to be. But one of the most important steps that we're taking is making sure that we support our most innovative industries and to invest in the sectors where Maryland is poised to see major growth and actually dominate the market. Not only the right to win, but a will to win. And these include the life sciences, tech, cyber, quantum, AI, and aerospace. I talk about some of these industries when I travel, and people know, and they just can't sometimes believe and understand that we almost have an embarrassment of riches and opportunity here in the state of Maryland and the city of Baltimore. And they would love to have some of the access and some of the vision and some of the positioning and some of the industries that we have. And I literally get to talk about 4 or 5 of them at a time. So I just want to highlight a couple of programs that we're using to boost the critical sectors. And once again, to make sure that we're very intentional and we invest to make sure that we can scale. I think one of the things that we've learned and we've understand over time, when we look at some of our competition, about how some of the ecosystems may be a bit more vibrant, we really need to look at doing a lot more, scaling a lot more. I call it making a bigger playground. So all of our bright minds and great positioning can make sure get us to where we need to go. So the first thing that I want to share is called the Build Our Future program, which was part of our administration's 2023 legislative agenda. It's just a program that provided matching grants of up to $2 million for projects that demonstrate transformative impact and accelerating growth in some of those strong industries that I mentioned. Just some of the numbers behind it, I think some of you may have participated. We had 11 projects that were approved for over $9 million for funding in the first round. And we're now currently accepting applications for round 2, which will have about $7 million in funding to distribute. And these are important. I chat with everybody and share thoughts and opportunities. We see our job as the state to be an enabler, to be the force multiplier, to de-risk, to do some of those hard things to get the car out of the garage and make sure our economy stays very vibrant. Another important program that I'm very proud of and that we're working, and I know there's a lot of conversation about how we invest in some of those most important places in our economy, is the Maryland Manufacturing 4.0 grant program. This is a program that provided grants of up to $500,000 to small and mid-sized Maryland manufacturers to invest in new 4.0 technologies, such as new machinery. And so these are some of the technologies that can support increased productivity, sales, cost savings, and retention of employees to really get to those spaces that can make the companies grow and work. 49 businesses have received nearly $2 million in total grant funding through the program since it launched in 2023. And I'm very happy to report that the program is funded at another $5 million for 2025. And another big opportunity that we have, our marketing team at the Department of Commerce, we launched the new workforce attraction program earlier this year, which focuses specifically on bringing young, high-tech professionals and college students to Maryland. Some of the numbers that support our ecosystem, some of you may know, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. At the end of 2024, we were actually the lowest state in the United States of America with the lowest unemployment. We're still number 3 or 4. We stay at the bottom. And that's just a reflection of how vibrant some opportunities are, and still the challenge that we face to still make sure that we get back to our workforce numbers to support our workforce opportunities. There's a stat that we know have about 1.6, almost 2 jobs, 1.7, almost 2 jobs for every person that's unemployed. But the miscalibration is that sometimes you may need a degree in molecular biology to fill one. And so that's kind of where we have to make sure that we begin to invest and balance. I see my great friend Kelly here works at the Tech Council. We're all working collectively, and all of us to make sure that we put the money where it needs to get, so we can continue to plant and seed things where they need to be. But the commerce attraction opportunity is called Be Moved, both literally and figuratively. So we have ads running across the country that drive folks to a new website. It's liveworkmaryland.com. Check it out. You have to see folks when you travel, tell them to come to Maryland. Take a look at it. And it's a one-stop shop for information about why you should live and work in the state of Maryland. The governor and I are very clear. Match us up with any state. We'll bring it. We'll tell you what we have, all of the great opportunities, all of the space. We're the second most educated state in the United States of America. We're the 7th richest state, if you want to talk about those spaces, about where opportunity can be. And also strengthening our workforce and attraction top talent will really help us attract new investment. And I think all of you know, and I firmly believe, that whoever wins the game of workforce development and workforce attraction and can support the companies will be the place that creates the best ecosystem, the best playground by which to attract investors and begin to create that opportunity to work. And it will ensure that startups and all growing companies can find the talent that they need to grow at scale and position themselves to grow. And another opportunity I want to share that, in the space that I think we can take a look at and would like to invest more is Maryland's Global Gateway Program. And this is our international program where we help attract international investments by connecting initial startup companies in a network of incubators and accelerators here in Maryland. Some of you may know it. And we characterize it, and I say it's an opportunity for foreign companies to take a test drive. We'll support them to soft land, we'll keep their costs low, find a place for them to work. And in the first year, more than 60 companies applied from 6 continents. We have more than 24 participating from 19 countries. So when we travel in that space and that opportunity, they recognize where U.S. Cyber Command is. They understand where NASA is. They understand where NIST. And they also understand where the United States federal government is located and where those opportunities can create the burgeoning resources and opportunities. And it's just another way that we'll be showing the world what the state of Maryland has to offer. Those are just a couple of programs that I wanted to chat with. And also, I think some of you know that we have a whole suite of financing and tax credit programs available to support some of the Maryland companies of all sizes. I always enjoy when I hear and interact at gatherings and network gatherings when people use our acronyms. They talk about BITSI. I love it. I say they know it, they understand it, and they get it. And it's been one of the most helpful programs that you all know about supporting our life sciences companies and biotech. And also, we want to make sure that you know that we help in a number of other ways. That our Office of Strategic Industries and Partnerships, and I would be remiss if I didn't recognize staff. Matt, Stephanie, look up. Where are you? Are you here? Exactly. Say hello. Exactly. And those are our industry specialists that will help everybody focus on areas like aerospace and life sciences, energy, cyber, manufacturing, and entrepreneurship and small businesses. We know it's difficult being in the government. Sometimes even the descriptions and the sites can get a little bureaucratic, but they're the ones that can help you. They can actually walk you through and make it very, very clear about the number of our loans, tax credits, grants, all the opportunities. See my good friend Jack and Troy and Ted go over there. We do it for a living to make sure that we help and understand and can assist the companies. And so, the job is to work with the businesses and to make sure we push them forward. And also, I just want to let you know that the last thought and the last idea is that the Department of Commerce, we're here to help. We're a resource for you. Our opportunity is to try and de-risk, is to be the force multipliers, to do what we need to do, and we continue to look and partner and be a part of your ecosystem to help to make sure that we create, again, one of the most vibrant and productive ecosystems in the United States of America. So with that, congratulate Tien, and I see Dean Chiantis at the same space. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your commitment and dedication to Baltimore. And we will be here, and let's have the state of Maryland march on. You guys have a fantastic day. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And to wrap up our welcome remarks, I'd like to bring up Pat Sheridan, who's the founder and CEO of Modus Create, which is an international digital transformation company. They're a great supporter of CONNECTpreneur, and they've been doing great things. And Pat has a great journey that he can tell you about over a beer one day. But Pat, come on up and say a few words, please.
I was up here thinking I should have spoken first. I don't know how to follow some of these great comments here from the gentleman. So my name's Pat Sheridan, as Tien said, founder, CEO of Modus Create. I'm just curious, how many MBA students are in the crowd here? All right, awesome. I thought there'd be like 50% networking, should it be? So I wanted to speak to you guys for a little bit first, just in terms of my journey and a little bit about the ecosystem. So 15 years ago is when the smartphone came out. And I had worked in technology in the DC area, a couple startups, some that people probably know here like Cvent. And I went through this kind of meteoric change in the DC economy where this shifted from being a government-centric town to really being seen as a startup powerhouse, right? And events like this, groups like Mindshare trying to replicate the magic of Silicon Valley here in DC. And I kind of considered that journey like my first MBA. And I started a company because I saw this kind of coming new set of trends, this intersection of there's this new device called the phone. There's going to be broadband Wi-Fi, but it probably won't be here till 2015. So what kind of company do you start anticipating this market-making behavior? And I think as we sit here today, we're on the precipice of like a very similar kind of journey with AI. So I had started a company, bootstrapped it. I got to business school because I felt I didn't know anything about running a company. And when I got to business school, I felt like they were teaching how to run a company from like 1980, right? Like a manufacturing supply chain. And I said, I'm working at all these startups. This has nothing to do with how you build and run a startup, or the fact that the people that I work with are in 70 countries around the world, contributing to open source software nights and weekends. And when I left business school, I had the opportunity to sell my small business to a company that was basically kind of rolling up the old models, right? This kind of private equity backed firm that was just buying up labor arbitrage around the US, this idea that outsourcing tech work to cheaper economies, right, was kind of a way to do it. And I was looking at that and I was thinking like, you don't just put a cherry on top of that and call it an innovative tech company. So when I started Modus, I was really thinking about this idea of what does it even mean to be a company, right? So back then, people thought I was somewhat crazy for essentially saying, well, I live in Reston, Virginia, but my team is in 65 countries around the world, working from home. And people would say, well, that's crazy. How do you motivate that team? And I felt like, well, the work is motivating. And my business school classmates, would kind of throw jabs at us. Well, you're not a product company. And we would say, yeah, but the nature of how everyone builds products is changing. And I would talk to the economic development folks in Fairfax County that would say, hey, you're at 100 people now. How much more office space do you need in Reston? I would say, none. You shouldn't be talking to me. You should be talking to the people that work for me, I think, to your comments, and saying, why is it attractive for you to live here? Because I don't need an office here. I think we're coming out of an era where culture has kind of been confused in startups with interior design, right? Like, oh, we have this cool foosball table and we have this, you know, cool desk. And I write a lot now about these return to work mandates, right? And I think about over the last 15 years as Modus has grown from like me in a chair to over 600 folks, like I said, in 65 countries, to the amount of economic prosperity that has happened outside of the US because of distributed work could also be happening in the interior of the US. And so if we think about 80% of GDP coming from, say, 25 Super Bowl cities, what if it was 250 cities? What do those neighborhoods look like, right? What does that quality of life look like? And I think the main thing that people should be focusing on now is not so much is the innovation. Like when I think about Modus, I think, is the innovation the fact that we're a company that offers a bridge to big firms like Marriott, Pfizer, Audi to say, you know, by the time you saw Tesla in your rearview mirror, they had overtaken you, right? Are you a hotel selling rooms company or are you a travel experience company? What does that company look like? Does it matter how many physical assets you have if you're not, you know, offering travel experiences? And when I think about this emerging kind of AI trend, it's really, it's the pace of the new technology. And so when I talk to CEOs, executives all the time. I'm a limited partner in Blue Ventures early stage cyber fund here in the area, an angel investor. I just invested in an AI startup out of Maryland. 3 guys got to 4 million run rate in 8 months, no sales team, using AI bots and influencers to sell to global students trying to pass entrance exams. Like the speed at which you build is based as a pure function of organizational design. And so when I talk to execs and they say, well, we want to operate more like Amazon, or we want to, and I said, well, it's not getting an office in Crystal City, it's how do they run? How do you run? And when I talk to you know, founders looking for funding, and I look at their pitch decks and I say, okay, how would this company compete in 2040? Work backwards from 2040, work backwards from a universe in which everyone has an AI assisted bot. Companies like Salesforce could be put out of business in 5 years because I could basically go to an AI bot and say, build me a CRM for my business that I self-host, right? I think the magnitude of change is more a function of how have you built a company to react to the fact that you can't rethink your business model every 5 to 10 years anymore. You're doing it every other year. And so how do you build into that business the ability to survive? And I think just to pick up on the themes from the other speakers, the way that you do that is that you build an ecosystem. So if you're a Fortune 5, as I like to say, Modus started off, you know, being a company for innovators and disruptors, but now we're trying to help dinosaurs fight off unicorns, right? These big companies. But the idea is that there's no amount of companies that a big company can acquire. All the big companies with the capital assets and the brand want to act like a startup. They think the way to do that is to acquire companies as opposed to change how they operate. They need to be invested in. I think the great work that Tien and team are doing here is companies would rather invest in PhD students and be able to partner with graduate students to do research than bring in a McKinsey. Right? People have spent a lot of money with big consulting firms to get very little output. So how do you organize in terms of this triangle of the government incentives, the academic, right, and then these startup ecosystems? And in a sense, Modus tries to act as a bridge between those. So I could talk all day, so I'll just kind of cut it there, but I'm excited to hear some of the pitches today, and good luck to everyone speaking. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. I think we'll be hearing a lot about AI over not just today, but, you know, into the future. It's here to stay. Next, I'd like to bring up Kelly Schultz, who's the CEO of the Maryland Tech Council and former Secretary of Commerce for the state of Maryland. She'll give us an update on the great things that the Maryland Tech Council is doing. Kelly.
always good to be here, Tien, with you and Dean. Thank you very much for hosting us again here today. And of course, Secretary. It's quite an honor to be here amongst these folks and the speakers, but also it's really cool to be around the founders. So Tien, you always create this great opportunity for us to mix and mingle with people that are doing the real hard work out there, and that is the research, the development, the commercialization of everything that you're doing. So I just want to give you a brief update on what we're doing at the Maryland Tech Council. For those of you that don't know and pretend that you do, the Maryland Tech Council is the leading life science and technology organization in the state of Maryland. We have now over 800 members, and this is kind of a record for us, and we are in a growth pattern. For all of you businesses out there, you understand that growth is exciting, and it's also a little bit scary and dangerous. So we are doing a lot of risk mitigation within the Tech Council, but with all of our members, many of you here in the room, we're really managing that and growing. And part of that growth is not just based on the existing ecosystem in which we had centered around over the course of the last 40 years. Yes, we just celebrated our 40th birthday celebration last week. But it's also dipping our toes into areas of technology that maybe we hadn't done before in a traditional sense. So all of you know, we are the bio affiliate for Bio International here in the state of Maryland. But unlike most of our bio affiliates across the country and the other states, we are also the tech hub. We are the organization for technology. And traditionally that has meant digital tech. Right? It's cyber and software development. And now we are really, I would say, we started to dip our toes in the water, and now we're swimming in the ocean of technologies like data center and energy and ag tech and sustainability, and areas which are really important, not only to the state of Maryland and us here, but to the entire world. And I would say by bringing us together, those networking events, almost 90 networking events a year, including those that I attend with Tien at his networking events. So we do a lot of stuff around Maryland, and it's really great. But happy to talk to you about three basic initiatives, some of the bigger ones that we've taken on this year and how we're going to move into the coming years. The first is what we did think that we were just going to provide a voice to in my previous time at the Department of Commerce, talking about data centers. We thought we were going to be a voice, and all of a sudden we had a summit last month that had 350 people, and we could have sold double the amount of tickets. These are industries of the future for the state of Maryland. Thank you, Secretary, for you and the governor's support in those arenas as well. But being able to think outside of what we have always done, what we've been comfortable with, and we plan on becoming even bigger a voice for that. Advocacy is a major part of what we do, and we are able to speak to federal, state, and local government and policymakers to be able to make sure that they understand what is important to our community, our ecosystem here in the state of Maryland. Our other big initiative that we have a big ribbon cutting, we have a big grand opening of our BioHub Maryland. So something that we hold very near and dear to our hearts is the workforce development, understanding how important it is, particularly to this part of the sectors, which is the biotech manufacturing. So we just completed last week our first 2-week boot camp to train our next biomanufacturers of the future at the entry level, and they are graduated and now they're ready to go get a job at GSK and AstraZeneca. And we're going to continue that training because there was a need. There was a gap in what we thought we needed for that entry level high school diploma only candidate that is now going to be going into an entire career field where they're going to continue their education at all of the different levels. And I would say the third initiative that I just want to briefly touch on is for the members in the room, I would be remiss to not tell you about our new MTC Edge program. It's a cost saving program for all of our members to capitalize on the cost savings for group type discounts. Last year, our members saved over $200 million in costs. And that is not just lab equipment, that's everything from shipping, travel. If you don't know about it, if you have not gotten briefed on it, please come and let me know, because one thing I know is needed right now in this economy is a little bit of cost savings in our community. And we are here to help. I'll just say, looking forward to 2025, we have a big legislative session that's coming up. We want to be able to make sure that we continue to advocate for everything that you're doing in this room to create the ecosystems that are going to continue to build to make Maryland the #1 state in the nation for biotech technology in general, right? So we are going to be at the forefront of that. We have a great new podcast series. We're telling the rest of the world how great Maryland is, because sometimes we're really great at telling ourselves how great we are. Sometimes we forget to tell other people how great we are, that they need to come and be a part of what we're doing. So Tien, good luck. I can't wait to hear the pitches today. So excited to be a part of this ecosystem. And for the founders out there, make sure that we connect, because we can talk about what your future looks like as well. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Kelly. Now I'd like to bring up Troy Lamel-Stovall, who's the CEO of TEDCO. Done a great, amazing thing since you've taken over. Very impressive. I heard a rumor that we're going north a little bit. I want to hear about that. But thank you for all your support of so many founders in the room. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. How many of y'all it took for the last mile and a half took 30 minutes to get down here? I mean, I almost called Dean and said, bro, I ain't gonna make it today. This is not gonna happen. Dean, as always, thank you for your hospitality. Tien, thank you. So I already have a problem because not only am I coming behind a lot of my great friends, I'm standing in the way of getting these entrepreneurs getting their time. But Dean only gave me 5 minutes to talk about the things I got to talk about. So I'm gonna do the best I can with this. So first of all, and the most important thing, for those that may not know, TEDCO is the state's technology and life science early stage investor. And so we're the venture fund for the state. So we're writing checks anywhere from $100,000 up to $1.5 million. We stack that money. Our friend Jack Miner is here. Jack is our chief investment officer. Jean-Luc Park runs what we call our social impact fund. And so if you have anything, and Karen is here also, because not only do we write checks, we wrap around those individuals. We make sure that they have all the resources that they need, which brings me to my first announcement. So all I'm expecting every single one of y'all to be right down the street here on December the 4th. December the 4th is our expo. We're bringing it back. We haven't had it since 2019. This will be our 10th year of having it. It will be at the Renaissance Hotel just down the street. We just announced that we're going to have a speaker from the Federal Reserve. We'll also have someone from Fulton Bank as well, and we got some guy that lives in Annapolis, I think, is going to show up there as well. We'll see if he can make it there. But we've got some great announcements that'll be happening there. One of those announcements that we'll talk about is this thing that we're doing. We recognize that so many entrepreneurs have ideas in their head. They have ideas in their head, or they have ideas and they don't have $10,000 or $15,000 to take that idea that's in their head or the back of the napkin into a proof of concept or minimum viable product. We're going to start doing that. We're going to start writing checks that small to help those types of entrepreneurs, and you'll hear more about that at Expo. The other thing we also realize that we've been at a competitive disadvantage in the state as it relates to some of our research coming out of our labs, out of our universities. And so SBIR and SCTR is a great tool that the federal government has to do non-dilutive financing to these companies. There's 20 other states that match that funding. We had never had that before here in the state of Maryland. Come at the end of this calendar year, we will have that funding. Thanks to the governor and his role, we will have that funding. We'll have that program to match phase 1 and phase 2. So stand by for that announcement as well. I'm also proud of the fact that the governor talks about leaving no one behind. And so we've been very intentional at TEDCO in ensuring that we're investing in people of color and entities started by people of color and women in our rural areas, to the point that Jack and his team over the last couple of years, almost 60% of the deals and the money have gone to entities started by someone of color and a woman. We've also made ourselves a limited partner in 2 venture funds led by someone of color and women. But I'm also here to announce yesterday, NASDAQ recognized our work. NASDAQ put out a report that's up on LinkedIn. NASDAQ recognized us that Maryland's the number 3 state in the country in terms of investing in people of color and women, and TEDCO is the leading entity in making that happen. So we're very excited about that. Also, it was announced a few days ago that the Washington D.C. area, PitchBook said the Washington D.C. area, which includes Baltimore, is the number 10 venture hub on the planet. And we're sitting between the number 20, which is up in Philadelphia, which brings to the point that Tien was talking about. So 2 weeks ago, we were announced we were the first state in the country to get a $10 million award from the U.S. Treasury to do what we're calling our BRIDGE program. It's a nice acronym. If you know Stephen Allville, he loves making these acronyms. So BRIDGE stands for Business Resource Information Development and Guidance Ecosystem. That's a lot of words to say we're going to help our entrepreneurs. And here's the cool thing about it. Not only are we helping entrepreneurs in the state of Maryland, this money is going to allow us to work with George Mason in Virginia, Howard University in Washington, D.C., University of Maryland College Park here in Maryland, and University of Delaware over in Delaware. We're going to be able to create what we are now calling not just the DMV, Kelly, but the D squared MV. We are going to make sure that we think about this in a holistic way. And guess who's right in the middle of this? Maryland. And so we're excited about this $10 million opportunity. There's other grants that we've got that's going to amplify that work that's not we can't announce yet. So we're excited about that. So again, thank you, team, for having me. Again, I want to re-announce that December the 4th, Renaissance. Expect to see all y'all there. Thank you all for everything that you do here for the ecosystem. Thank you, my friend, the Secretary of Commerce, for all the work that you do and for our friendship. Thank you, Kelly, for your friendship and allowing me to hang out with you last a couple of weeks ago at the 40th anniversary celebration. Thank you for the TechCo team for all that you do. And again, have a great, great day.
Awesome. All right. So without further ado, we're going to have 5 pitches now. To introduce our first 3 companies, I'd like to bring up Anthony Millen, who's the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. Anthony is a venture capitalist. He's an entrepreneur and is also one of the nation's leading attorneys. And Next is a creation of his, which is custom tailored for early stage companies who are trying to manage their legal costs, which, as you know, as founders can be quite expensive. So what Next has done is they've prepackaged dozens of different types of offerings and services into a package, and it helps startups manage their costs better. They've won numerous awards by some of the top legal publications, and congratulations on all your success, Anthony. Come on up and we can get started.
Well, it's great to be here today. Thank you, Tien and Skylar and the entire CONNECTpreneur team for all that you guys do for our ecosystem. As Tien mentioned, I'm the founder and co-chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers, which is a leading innovator and award-winning player in the area of legal practice. We have really, and I was thinking what Pat said a little earlier, in terms of experience, we've really changing the experience of how you consume and legal services as a startup and emerging growth company. And we've done that through productizing this broad range of legal services into fixed price packages. We've changed the whole way customer service and experience works, and we use a lot of technology to make things more transparent, efficient, and collaborative. And we surround our startups with a number of other platforms that help them de-risk and grow outside of legal as well. For more information on Next, you can visit us at next.law. And also, you can see our newest platform called MyNextRaise at mynextraise.com, which is a whole platform for startups around investor readiness. We have 250 companies in our beta. All right, so the first company that I have the honor of introducing is Access Instruments. Access Instruments brings a 4K fully digital imaging device for minimally invasive surgery. The Access Port delivers cost effectiveness, availability, and quality, and its superb imaging matches what the surgeon needs to visualize and care for each patient. Please welcome Dr. Michael Norton, CEO of Access Instruments.
Thank you. Access Instruments brings a minimally invasive imaging system that's completely 4K to solve problems that are still persistent in laparoscopic surgery. Laparoscopic surgery is very common. I started doing laparoscopic surgery in 1990. Most common in doing laparoscopic surgery is gallbladder surgery. Probably many of you have had gallbladder problems here. Some of them you have removed. Some of them are going to be removed. You don't know yet. and I bet there's a few personally that have had their own removed. There are 1 million cases of laparoscopic cholecystectomy or removal of the gallbladder each year in the United States. Every day. That's 2,739 gallbladders. That's a lot. Laparoscopic challenges include when we put the laparoscope into the abdomen, it goes in through a port, but we have problems with fogging, lens cleaning, taking it in and out, getting it clean, defogged, back in position, and then refocusing the whole process. Because each time you bring it out, you lose focus about where you're operating. There's nothing on the screen. Steering a laparoscope is also a challenge. It's backwards, it's like back in a trailer, and about half the people who we work with really don't have the space to take that on and to say left is left and right is right, because that's what they learned. So we've developed solutions for the laparoscopic surgery market. We developed this device. It has a boot tip on it, and the boot tip is new. It's really a garage of tools. It has the camera, it has the lights, it has an irrigation system, it has insufflation. So we really stop the process of taking the scope in and out, and we give you an excellent picture. The entire device on the bottom is covered by a specialized lens. When it gets something on it, you can wash it with a proprietary jet wash system, and it works excellent. So that's an important advantage just to keep the operation moving forward. The other thing that we bring to the table is natural steering, and we do this from robotic steering. We work off of a camera board, and we're able to move what you're seeing on the screen and move to where it is. And there's enough data to present an excellent picture with each move you make. The other side of this is us working in a demonstration lab. We did this in Houston, Texas, and it was a demo of the project and also testing it and looking at the attributes of it. It worked very well, and we finished with a gallbladder out on the table in this operation. Unfortunately, this got translated in on a Google site. But anyway, it's an excellent picture on the side. That's more than you want to see in a gallbladder. Most people don't even want to look at a gallbladder. And a lot of people, just being inside the body is different. But this is a great picture. This is how surgeons want to see. You can look at so much detail on this picture. The access port market is large. We work in the laparoscopic market, 4.4 billion. We have put together a good team. We have 13 issued patents. We have a working prototype. We've done a laboratory evaluation of that 2 times. We've got endorsement from support from a major university. Our team, myself and my partner at the top, we have 13 patents and 70 years worth of experience. Financial projections. The people we're selling to are hospitals, surgery centers, and outpatient surgery centers. We've raised $600,000. We're asking $2.2 million. Timing is now. We'd use that money to create the FDA prototype and work it through the FDA. We'd be, at the same time, be working with building a business team that can solidly introduce this into the market, and be working on the access port sales and manufacturing first steps. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I would now like to introduce Chromaton. Chromaton has developed BioRMB, the first ever continuous column-free single-use and steady-state chromatography platform that provides significant improvements in recovery, productivity, and product purity, while reducing resin consumption and downtime for manufacturing of biologics, gene therapies, and mRNA. Please welcome Oleg Shinkanj, CEO of Chromaton.
Gene therapy has the potential to become one of the most successful product lines in the history of life sciences. This is a market that is growing at over 20% and has hundreds of therapies in clinical trials. Most importantly, for many people, these therapies are a lifeline, and for many, a nearly miraculous cure. Are there any people in the audience that know how these things are made? Raise your hand. A couple. So, gene therapies are made in genetically engineered cells, which are cultivated in large bioreactors up to 5,000 liters. At the end of the cultivation, the vector hangs out in a very complex solution that has host cell proteins, DNA, and other junk. The downstream process takes that one molecule and purifies it to 99.9% so it could go into people. Every single manufacturing process for gene therapies is currently experiencing a bottleneck as very old and inefficient column chromatography operations are used at low efficiency and high cost. Large-scale batches can cost up to $500,000 in chromatography resin alone. Chromaton has successfully commercialized a novel manufacturing platform called BioRMB that uses modern manufacturing principles of multi-stage countercurrent extraction, conveyor belt processing, and chromatography to accomplish two very important things. Number one, improvement in recovery of product. The BioRMB increases recovery from 70 to 90% for these super expensive drugs. Number two, 80% reduction in cost of goods. The BioRMB reduces expensive resin consumption by 90% and replaces that expense with a simple consumable. In addition, our process is fully closed and single use, which helps streamline manufacturing and decreases costs and labor for cleaning and validation. We are a partner-centric company. We've partnered with biopharma clients, academic institutions, and contract manufacturers to make this system a reality. We have several large biopharma clients in the pipeline, strong academic and industrial partnerships, strong IP position, and have been very fortunate with raising significant non-dilutive capital with over $12 million in grants. We're also a Blue Knight company, which means we have a very close relationship with BARDA and are currently pursuing major projects with the government. The market is large and is strong, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Everybody knows about the gene therapy market. We have an amazing team with 120 years of person years of experience. We have recently hired a real ace in the sales and business development, Scott Zobi, who is our new VP of sales. We have a really great board that has successful entrepreneurs from our field, some people like Howard Levine and Frank Lee and Dennis Anarelli that have sold companies in our space and truly believe in our mission. By 2027, we will be at $30 million in revenue, mostly from the razor blade model. So most of our sales are going to be those cartridge sales that will be basically making up the bulk of our revenue. We are raising a $7 million bridge, 5.9 of which has already been closed. So you would be coming in on the tail end of the bridge at 1.1 million. The goal for that raise is to sell 5 pilot systems, complete the first GMP unit, ramp up sales and marketing, and bridge us to Series B, which will be at a $7 million level, and we're already in diligence with a couple funds for that as well. In addition, this raise is matched by a Phase 2B grant for $2.5 million. Thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to you at the table there.
Thank you, Oleg. The next company that I have the honor of introducing is 2020 Gene Systems. 2020 Gene Systems is a clinical laboratory test developer focused on AI-powered blood tests for the early detection and prevention of cancers and chronic diseases. The company is currently the #2 market leader in the US for multi-cancer early detection blood tests. Please welcome Jonathan Cohen, CEO of 2020 Gene Systems.
There we go. Okay. So we focus at 2020. We're a clinical lab company located here in the state of Maryland, Gaithersburg, Maryland, and we offer right now one of 2 on-market multi-cancer early detection blood tests, or MCEDs. Unfortunately, most of the cancers responsible for deaths do not have a widely available and utilized screening approach like we have with mammograms for breast cancer, colonoscopies for colon cancer. For other deadly cancers like those of the lung, the liver, the pancreas, and the ovaries, there is no widely available screening modality. And to fill this void, companies, particularly Grail, have introduced tests based on circulating tumor DNA. And these tests have several key limitations. They're very expensive, about $1,000. The data around their ability to detect early stage cancers is very weak. It's often in the teens. And they require traditional venipuncture blood draws, which require you to go to either the doctor or a patient service center, LabCorp, or Quest. Our test is based on proteins or antigens like the A and PSA, prostate-specific antigen, and can be offered at a much lower price, has documented strong sensitivity for early stage cancers like those of the pancreas and ovaries, and has recently been validated using devices like this that painlessly allow the right amount of blood to be tapped from the upper arm without needles. And we have now, literally in the past few weeks, been getting people around the country are getting these at home and have an agreement with Giant Pharmacy to offer it at Giant Pharmacy. So that's a huge advancements to access. Disadvantaged communities in particular, I think, will benefit, and they very much need these tests. The market is huge. We expect CMS has announced they will likely begin covering these before the end of the decade, prodded by a bill in Congress with more than half of its members, Republicans and Democrats, as co-sponsors. And it's based on a model very popular in East Asia, where everyone goes every year to what are called health check centers in Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and gets these types of tests done. So we have seen now 10 consecutive quarters of revenue growth, a line of sight to profitability, high reorder rate. These tests are done yearly, and about 40% of our customers reorder yearly. And we built machine learning algorithms and are licensing into places like Japan and Taiwan where these tests are commonplace. So we have revenues globally, not just here in the United States. We offer biotech-like returns with IT level risks, in short. We are revenue stage. We have multiple paths to liquidity. We are IPO ready with the requisite audits. And don't require substantial capital to break even. On top of that, we're offering a sort of Mr. Wonderful-like incentive where we're going to be providing for investors in our $3 million round. We are offering royalties in addition to equity. So this is for those that are interested in a relatively short-term return on investment. We think we are the right company for you. Again, this is a company that can do well and do good. Good return on investment, but also an ability to advance tests that could save the life of your own life and those that you care about. For those that are interested in getting a test, we have a booth back there. We can arrange for you to get one of these at-home self-collected tests. With that, thank you very much for your attention today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, we have 2 more presenters. to introduce our next two presenters, I'd like to bring up Mark Haas, who's the co-founder and CEO of the Association for Enterprise Growth, which is the leading group of professional service professionals in the region. Mark, thank you for your support over the years, and tell us a few words about AEG.
Thanks, Tian, and thanks for you all to be here today. AEG is an ecosystem of business advisors and mid-market CEOs, and what we're really doing that's different than other systems is to bring together people with a variety of disciplines to really understand the complexities of business challenges and operating as a business. So I know we're a little behind, like half an hour behind, so I'm not going to go on about that. So it's interesting. This is CONNECTpreneur's equivalent of Shark Week. All five of our presenters are in the healthcare space, and great healthcare innovation is great, but if you can't see it, like Jonathan's 2020 gene systems, you can't deliver it or you can't access it, it doesn't do any good. So our next two presenters have some unique ways of seeing the world a little bit differently. Next presenter is Mike Maglin, the CEO of Cranius. So great name, best name, Sophie. And the challenge is that the blood-brain barrier prevents a lot of access to your head, which is a good thing given all the drugs that are floating around our system, but it prevents the opportunity to deliver some good healthcare and therapies to the brain. So Mike, tell us what you've done.
Thank you, Mark. Quick show of hands. How many people in the audience either are suffering from or know somebody in their family or network suffering from chronic brain disease? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, depression, epilepsy. Okay, pretty much everybody, right? So I think we've defined the market and the opportunity we have in front of us at Cranius with our NeuroPass drug platform. So with Cranius, NeuroPass is providing a transformative innovation to the market. It is the first fully implantable, skull-embedded drug delivery platform that's going to be able to deliver medicine and therapeutics directly to the brain. If you think about the last 50 years in medicine, it is unbelievable the amount of progress that we've seen across pretty much every organ of the body. The one that has seen the least amount of progress is probably the most important, and that's the brain. And the reason for that is a phenomenon called the blood-brain barrier. And the blood-brain barrier, if you want to think about it in simplest terms, is an extra layer of security that our body has built up over thousands of years of evolution to keep out harmful toxins and chemicals from destructing our brain, which is a good thing. On the other side of it, though, when you think about therapeutics, anything taken by pill form, systemically, or through the bloodstream, less than 1% of that is actually getting into the brain tissue where brain disease lives. So that is really causing a lack of advancement in the brain in treatment of diseases. Dr. Chad Gordon is our founder, and he is the director of neuroplastic surgery at Johns Hopkins. And he is a serial innovator who's already had a few exits to his name. But this is really the culmination of a decade plus of work leading us to the holy grail of medicine delivery directly to the brain over the long term. And his first invention that he licensed to Stryker back in 2015 was just a better cranial implant to improve the aesthetic and the appearance of patients that post-operation, when they were getting their cranial implants that accounts for bone loss, the cranial implants traditionally didn't account for muscle and fat atrophy in the side of the head called the temporalis muscle. And so these patients were coming with dents in their head. So Dr. Gordon's first invention was a bulk out or improvement of the cranial implant that had been around from Stryker and J&J for the last 50 years. The bigger uncovering is the bone is about 4 to 5 millimeters thick. This area that he built IP around is about 1.5 inches or 2 inches thick. So instead of just thinking about bringing patients back to their regular appearance, which is amazing, he started thinking about how can I embed technology in this large space that I've uncovered. The next 5 years was spent with 3 first-in-human studies that he conducted. Not many surgeons do one in their career. Dr. Gordon did 3 in 5 years, all utilizing technology that's out in the market to treat brain disease. They couldn't find a spot without causing infection or pain. He embedded this in a cranial implant and was able to safely deliver the purpose of each of these devices. And that gave him the confidence to start the company Cranius to focus specifically on medicine delivery directly to the brain. The modality that we're using is something called convection enhanced delivery. You cannot just drip medicine into the brain directly. It will pull and not necessarily treat the area that needs to be treated. So it is a force that over time, so it needs to be delivered over at least 12 hours, builds what you see here in the white circle, which is a convection enhanced delivery cloud. That is washing the tumor, and we've seen proof that this actually successfully treats brain cancer and other diseases. A lot of different highlights I like to talk about. Wonderful people in this room. Mr. Secretary, really, we're really proud to be part of your program and Build Your Future for Maryland and receiving a $1 million grant there. This is a drug agnostic platform. We are starting with glioblastoma patients in our clinical trial that we are working towards. We had a groundbreaking study in 2023. You just saw a 200-pound swine that had medicine safely and efficiently delivered to the brain tissue. We're looking to do the same thing with human patients. We are a drug-led combination device. We have what's called a 505(b)(2) pathway, which is great because we're leveraging a drug that has already been shown to be safe and effective in clinical trials, so no additional drug work is going to be required. We're just focusing on the delivery system. We already have interest from Fortune 500 companies. We've had 2 executive leadership teams come into our offices in Baltimore, which we're really proud about, and they're very interested in talking about partnership and potential exit scenarios after our first in-human study. We have a robust IP portfolio. We've raised over $25 million to date. The Series A was $20 million. We're now raising $20 million to get us through our first in-human study, which is about 2 years down the line. And we have $5 million of that $20 million raised. We are open to private investors, but we're also looking to potentially take on an institutional lead investor. As I mentioned, we will complete this first in-human study by the end of 2026. This may be the last opportunity to invest in Cranius. Here's our leadership team. I talked about Dr. Gordon, myself, Natalie Wisniewski is our Chief Technology Officer. Combined, we have over 100 years of experiences in implantable technologies and smart technologies. And then Dr. Henry Brem, who's just stepping down as the head of neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins after 25 years, is leading our 9-member clinical advisory board. So as I mentioned, we're in the midst of a Series B $20 million round, $5 million already committed, plus the $1 million grant from the state of Maryland. So I'm interested to talk to you folks after we wrap up here today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Our last presenter of the day is RoadDoc. And if you think about all of us in this room, I'd be willing to bet have access to health care. We have a local doctor. We know who it is. We can make an appointment. It might be a couple months away, but at least you know where your medical records are. Think about another population of drivers, long-haul truckers, et cetera. They're about 4 million people. They're constantly moving. They're in and out of jobs. They're not in the best health. They don't have access to their medical records, and they're often in a place not their home when a need arises. So what RoadDoc has done is provide an opportunity for providing those services at the point of need, truck stops and others. And I'd like to introduce Igor Volovich, the CEO and founder of RoadDoc.
Good morning. My name is Igor Volovich, and I'm the CEO and founder of RoadDoc. We're building a decentralized healthcare ecosystem to access underserved populations who are critically, chronically out of access to healthcare. Our initial target market is U.S. truck drivers, and we're going domestic first, which represents a TAM of $5 billion in annual recurring revenues. The problem is pretty serious. There are 4.1 million drivers on the road every single day. They have poor access to care. It's inconsistent. It's not quality. By the time they get to care, it's usually emergency or urgency. And they're 70% obese, 54% smoke. They eat very unhealthy, as we know. And they only see a physician once every 2 years on average because that's their DOT physical, that's mandated. They have a lot of chronic conditions, poor health outcomes. Average life expectancy is 61 years, which is 15 years less than the average American. And with the average age of 46, they've got about 15 years left to live. So it's a pretty dire situation. Also, it's important to remember that 1 in 4 veterans is actually a truck driver in the US. There's significant impact that goes beyond the drivers themselves. There's economic impact. Of course, the companies suffer from unplanned driver downtime. Every day a truck is standing still and it's unplanned for, it's about $1,000. If a truck stands still for 3 days, that actually goes red for that month for that truck. So if you multiply that, and with the margins being as thin as they are in that industry, it's a significant concern. So it goes beyond the drivers. It's also a significant economic impact and impacts our national transportation grid as well. The answer is the road dock autonomous health pod. The idea is to deliver these at truck stops where the drivers already are, and we're not chasing them, they're not chasing us, we're just meeting in the middle. And it's at the point of need, and we can provide clinical care without incurring clinical overhead. So we're not building clinics, these are fully autonomous, they don't have to be staffed, and in fact you are getting a true clinical experience in the pods with telediagnostics and AI-driven intake and triage. The GTM strategy is pretty simple. We go to where the truckers are, and there are truck stops. There's 2,000 major truck stops around the country. There are primarily 3 brands. It's Pilot, Flying J, Loves, and BP, and it's now a TA Petro. So 2,000 truck stops. We can go across the nation. We can cover major truck routes pretty easily. There are thousands of carriers. They hire from hundreds to thousands of drivers. So the access model is fairly easy, and we can get pretty close to our revenue very quickly. The model is B2B2B. So we are a care delivery platform. We extend the reach of individual practices without incurring significant overhead. They don't have to build out clinics. They simply plug into our network, and then they get access to patients, so there's patient capture. There's also care continuity, because when you see a physician through our platform, you see the same physician no matter where you are in the country. They also get all your records, so there's that true care continuity and clinical significance. So they're not seeing a random doctor every time when they get into plush care, teledoc, or something like that. The commercial carriers, for them, that's a fleet wellness management system. So they get to augment their existing systems if they have them. If they don't, that becomes their fleet wellness management system. And they get to manage risk from unplanned driver downtime. For the travel stops, very easy. It drives traffic, and they want it, all day. Unit economics, pretty simple. We understand things from a care encounter perspective. We understand things from a technology perspective, and we are technologists, so we understand how to build this. In fact, we're not reinventing any wheels here. In fact, we're just building a bicycle out of existing parts. So on a per patient basis, we're looking at about $1,200 in annual recurring revenue, and we're tracking to about 83% gross margins. Financial projections, we're looking at about $1 million ARR within the first year of beginning operations, and then reaching to $36 million by the end of year 3. There are a few prior attempts to do this. Folks have run into several problems. One of the primary problems is the care continuity problem, where they are unable to follow the patient across the country because as they transition to different geographies and different networks, they don't have their records. So somebody walks into a clinic, it's a de novo encounter, and they have really no background on them. And with chronic conditions, of course, that's very difficult to manage, almost impossible. One interesting example is Forward. That's a company out of California. They've raised $325 million to build similar pods. Very futuristic, and they've pivoted lately to the tune of $100 million to build the pods. They've built 19 clinics and no pods yet. So we know this is an existing problem that other folks have tried to solve. We've got a different approach, and we understand those problems. We've got early traction and support. American Legion is definitely in our corner. They've got 2 million members who are veterans, and of course, one of our veterans drives a truck. And we've circled $600K in early revenue from early adopters in South Carolina and Illinois. The team is experienced. We've got plenty of exits, and we've done a lot of ventures. I personally have been involved with 35 startups. And we've got clinicians, we've got partners who are very experienced, and we are on track to produce a prototype within the first 3 months of operations once we gain our funding. We're raising 3 million seed, 500K for the prototype, and then would love to welcome you to join us on this journey. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you to our awesome presenters. They all have tables in the back, so be sure to engage with them after the panel. Now we'd like to have our panelists join us on the stage while we put up the tables for them. Moderating the panel, and all of our panelists' biographies and backgrounds are in the program book. But our moderator is our dean, Dean Alex Triantis, the dean of the Johns Hopkins Carrier Business School. And then our panelists are Deborah Hemingway, managing general partner of Ephora Capital, She's awesome. She's doing a great job with the Bitsy money that Secretary talked about. I'd like to bring up Jeff Cherry, who's no stranger to Baltimore. He's one of the most prolific investors in the region. He is a managing general partner of Conscious Venture Partners. Next, we have Jack Miner, who is the Chief Investment Officer of TEDCO. And then last but not least, Elizabeth Cho-Fertique, who's the managing partner of Meta Ventures. They've done a lot of life sciences, healthcare-related medtech investments, and now they are in the process of raising a committed capital fund. I think as soon as they're ready, you guys can join us.
Okay, folks, let's keep the momentum here. You've heard from some great entrepreneurs. It's time to hear from the investors who make them grow and sustain them over time. So we have a fabulous panel. I'm not going to reintroduce them. Chen already did that, but I think I want to give them an opportunity to kind of briefly introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their organization and what their organization focuses on, in particular what they do with it.
Okay.
Elizabeth, you want to start us off?
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. Elizabeth Cho-Fertique. I'm a Hopkins alum, the undergrad, so they're always happy to come back here. I started out as a scientist, but edged slowly over into the investing side, kind of accidentally, but here I am. Meta Ventures is a VC that spun out of an angel investor group that I began with some physicians, Meta Angels. That started out in 2019. It still continues, but we thought maybe we could graduate. So here we are. We had a fund one, and that's about nearly deployed, and now we're got onto a fund two. We invest in anything healthcare, anything, particularly at the mid-seed and Series A stages. And we do invest, obviously US-based, but on occasion internationally. We can diligence, and there are no tax implications. So that's me.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Jeff?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Cherry. Speaking of an accidental investor, I would definitely be the definition of an accidental investor. I run a couple of organizations here in Baltimore, one called the Novella Center for Entrepreneurship, which is a not-for-profit that runs an accelerator called the Conscious Venture Lab. January 7th, demo day here in Baltimore. As Troy said, I want everyone to be there. Look me up on LinkedIn. And then I run a venture capital fund here called Conscious Venture Partners. We're on our second fund, almost fully invested, just about. The accidental part is I also didn't start out as an investor. I'm an architect by training. I went to college in Washington, D.C. at Catholic University, started an architectural firm in Washington that over the course of about 20 years, I turned into a management consulting company, grew from 2 people on the second floor of a bedroom in DuPont Circle to about 200 people around the world doing management consulting and working with Fortune 500 companies down to startups and government. Over the course of that time, we started to see the emergence of this idea that we now call stakeholder or conscious capitalism. So everything that we do now, I sold that company, I started a hedge fund, I moved back to New York, and then moved to Maryland because I wanted to get into the early stage investment business. Ken Ullman was a county executive in Howard County, heard about what we were doing, and asked, how do I get you to start this business in Columbia? I said, where the hell's Columbia? He sent me a map quest. I found Columbia, and we moved here and started the Conscious Ventures Collective to invest in early stage founders. What we do is we have sort of 3 themes that we focus on. One is this idea that we think that the winning businesses of the future are not going to focus myopically on shareholders. They're going to actually understand how to create value for all their stakeholders, so stakeholder or conscious capitalism. The second idea is that we want to invest in ideas that we think are breaking down barriers to access in society in some way, so making society more equitable, more just, more joyous. and more prosperous for everyone, more sustainable. And the third idea is that we think that there's really, really smart people everywhere. There's just not opportunity everywhere. So we do the best that we can to get into communities of underrepresented founders and find ideas that other people are ignoring for the wrong reasons. So that's what we do.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Hemingway, and I'm the founder and managing partner of Egg4 Capital. We are an early stage med tech VC firm based right here in Baltimore, and we look for companies that match two key focus points for us. The first one is that we are Maryland-based. We're Maryland-based, Maryland-founded, Maryland-focused. I mean, why not? There's so much incredible innovation here. So we capitalize on that. And we leverage the Biotechnology Investment Incentive Tax Credit Program. That's the BITC program on all of our investments. So we're really proud to partner with the state and to have access to this program. And I'm really excited to see it ramp up. And really support our amazing companies. So all of our companies are in Maryland, like I said, and are also committed to staying here for at least 3 years. The next thing that we do is we're looking for companies that have a really strong foundation. So we like to invest in Series A. We will go earlier than that. We look for companies, though, with 4 key parameters in place. So the first one that we look for is a very strong and intimate knowledge of the product market fit. So what is that pain point that you're trying to solve? Really, that's the heart of the organization. And we also do quantify that, which, yes, is a little bit nerdy, but we love data at my firm. So we do place quantitative values on that product market fit. The next thing that we look for is technical feasibility. If you don't have a fully functioning prototype, we look at the components of your prototype and what does it take to get there, and to also be commercially ready. How much more development is needed on that? So product market fit, technical feasibility. The next thing that we look at is the patent portfolio. So how strong is that protection? What does it look like? Do you have room to innovate and grow? And what's the patent landscape that you're participating in? And then finally, we begin with the end in mind. So what is your exit strategy? What type of returns are we looking at? We are driven by returns, so we do look at the financial returns as a very solid and key component of what we're looking at. So yeah, that's what we're looking for. Maryland-based, strong companies.
I'm Jack Miner. I'm the Chief Investment Officer with Maryland Tedco. I'm delighted that my boss stayed in the room for me to give this presentation. So you can all fill out my annual performance review after I'm done with this. But let me just start with a reminder, December 4th, go to the, right? Did I get that? Yes. Get to the Entrepreneur Expo. Tedco, the team I manage in the investment side, we are an instrumentality of the state, strategic direct investor on behalf of the taxpayers. We have $200 million in assets under management. Bulk of that is locked up in our current portfolio. We invest about $20 million a year, as you heard Troy say earlier, from $100,000 to $1.5 million. We are designed by statute. We execute based on what the legislators want us to do, and I think we do a fantastic job of it as an organization. Not me, but the team does a great job of that, working with partners like you have up here in finding ways to invest in early stage technology companies in the state of Maryland. We have 3 asset classes: social impact, seed, and venture. Venture is what you would expect it to be. Seed is really driven by, again, by statute, life sciences, cyber, tech transfer, and gap, which is as you expand your company, you can apply for funding. And then social impact, which is probably one of the things that I'm professionally most proud of. We invest in, purposefully invest in, and purposefully fill top of funnel for companies that are founded by people of color, women, vets, and disabled. And I think that it's profoundly different than the rest of the country. The average number of women who receive venture capital is somewhere between 0.01 if you're a Black woman founder and 2% if you're a white woman founder. We're at 56% in the state of Maryland. So that's all based on statute. We're doing this on behalf of the legislators. Your elected officials want to put their thumb on the scale, and I think we're executing on that.
Great. Well, thank you all for that introduction. I thought it'd be fun for everyone to hear an example of a recent investment or recent exit that you've had, some great story that you're really excited about. So, and Jack, for you, it better be a women-owned company. So, Elizabeth, do you want to start us off first?
Sure. gosh, which one to choose, right? It's been a really, our first fund has been doing quite well. We only started last year, although fully deployed almost. There haven't been exits yet, but the companies that we have found, we invested in, the teams are just, you know, incredible and tenacious, and they're pushing forward and hitting milestones that they said they would, which is unusual, on time. It really, it's just been, they're just tough as nails. So that's been really one good thing. I would say a great case that we invested in is a medical device company called Atraverse Medical. We invested at the beginning of the year. It's a left heart cardiac catheter device. You don't have to use multiple catheters, one and done. But anyway, very close to, after we invested, boom, they got their FDA approval. We weren't sure, but, all the signs indicated. So that, obviously helped the IRR. And then after that, this team, it's a serial entrepreneur team, they rapidly got 50 cases, human cases, under their belt in about 3 months. Boom, 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 boom. And they're already selling 80% margin. I mean, these guys are on fire. So thank you. And thanks to the patients. But I mean, quite a number of the companies that we have selected are marching this way and meeting the milestones as they said they would. And we're pleased, as punches for that. So that's it.
You're picking them well.
I guess so.
Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, it's a tough question, which ones to choose. But I think I'm going to focus on an investment we just made here in Baltimore, probably about 6 months ago. A woman named Dawn Myers, a company called Ritualist. The reason why I think that, I don't know this for a fact, I'm making this all up, but I think we're one of the venture firms, certainly venture firms that had the most companies on Shark Tank. And Dawn was on Shark Tank and got a deal with Emma Grede and Mark Cuban. And we were investing right around the same time. But Dawn's been through such an incredible personal journey. Some medical problems and just, but we just love her tenacity. We invest very, very early on. We're usually the first or very nearly the first professional money into the companies that we invest in. So, as some people who know me here, Tien and Troy know, I'm a degenerate horse gambler. So I'll be at the Maryland Million this weekend. If anyone's going to be there, come see me. I'll give you some tips. But we really bet on jockeys and not horses. So we're betting on people because we know that at the earliest stages, there's a few things that we know for sure. And one of the things we know for sure is a business is likely to change. So we're really betting on that person and their ability to achieve. And we just really, I fell in love with Dawn, her story. Her product is one of those ideas that lots of people ignore because they don't get it. Her product is a device for a Black woman's hair. And for grooming, and when she tells the story, it's so compelling. I have 3 sisters, but I don't know a lot about Black women's hair. But I do know that Dawn is going to figure out how to be successful, and that's what we really love to invest in. People that we know are going to figure it out sooner or later. We think this idea will work. It may not work, and if it doesn't work, the next thing that Dawn does will work, and we want to have been one of the people that who supported her from the very beginning. So we're really proud of that, and trying to continue to support her.
Great. I personally love great hair-related entrepreneurship.
I was going to say right up your alley, Dean. Yeah.
Deb, what about you?
Good. I'd like to share a story that highlights the importance of having a relationship with your investor if you're a CEO. So hopefully this will inspire some CEOs out there. So I got started in angel investing almost 7 years ago now. And the very first company that I invested in as an angel investor was a company that barely had a prototype. They'd come to the University of Maryland College Park, Dingman Center Angels, where I was a new angel. And they pitched there. It's the very first pitch I heard. And I ended up investing in this company. So this company is CoAppTech. They're here in Baltimore. And so they had ups and downs, as any startup does. They were trying to sell into the hospitals during COVID, which you can imagine how that went. So that was a hard time for the company, but the company just built a solid relationship with myself and the other investors. And, this is find investors who are going to back you and believe in you, like even in the hard times. So fast forward now almost 7 years from that investment, the company was continued and thrived. Now that COVID has lifted, they're getting back in the hospitals and making sales. And I'm very proud to report that since I'm no longer an angel, I'm now managing my VC firm. In August, my firm put in 1.2 million. So that's a deal that we just closed, and I'm really happy about that. And to continue to support this founder. And so I would just say, I bring up the story to say, be sure that you're building a great relationship with your investors and keeping them in the loop with what you're doing, and they'll continue to support you. And we're also open to doing another follow-on with this company as long as they continue to meet their milestones. And so, that's a deal that we did that we're happy about.
Thanks, Deb.
I'm maybe plagiarizing a little bit. I think, what the most important thing is that communication with the investment community. And so one company that I'm really proud of where we're headed was a complete failure. We invested millions of dollars in this company, and it failed. And we didn't hear anything from the founder and didn't hear anything from the founder. And finally, we heard something back from the founder, and we're like, dude, you got to understand, we want to talk with you. This is a building block, right? This is a stepping stone. And I think that, so as far as messages go to the community and where we are, we have a dual mandate: economic development and financial returns. Are we upset about the fact that we are not going to get any financial returns? Of course we are. We don't want that to happen. But at the same time, we want to celebrate the fact that this individual failed, learned from the failure, learned to communicate with the investment community, and recognizes the value of that, because we threw our arms around him and we made sure that we understood where he was coming from. He's not proud of the fact, but we're proud of where we're headed. And I think that that's something that's often overlooked. Deborah alluded to it in terms of communication, but I think that those stepping stones and those building blocks are really, really important to us in our dual mandate of economic development and financial returns.
Thanks, John. So Chen, I know you wanted to leave some time for open Q&A. So what, should we start that now, or? Okay. So we'll open it up to the audience for our fabulous panelists here, if you have any questions for them. You tell them what the special prize is? Yeah, please. Well, behind you first and then you. Yeah.
I'm actually going to ask a question for the dean, which is, there's a terrific thing that happens with academia, government, and industry come together. And obviously the school is at the center of the academic universe that is here. Can you give advice to small business owners on ways in which they can engage with the school in the best way? Obviously, small business comes with some expertise and always lacks others. And the school is a huge wealth of business expertise. How can small businesses interact with the school in ways that are constructive in their own growth and development?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and it depends, I think, on the university itself. So here at Hopkins, we have a central engine called Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures that we work very closely with, as do other schools on campus. So I think last year there was about 140 student-based teams that were supported by JHTV in one way or another. And then many of our alumni, but also community members that want in particular to establish a footprint or expand their footprint here in Baltimore can get involved. So that would be sort of the best front door I would give to you, although certainly reach out to me as well. But I think you stated it right, that everybody's looking for something different. It might be investment, it might be sort of the right partner, it might be student talent for people that you want to hire to be able to, and we can certainly help with that as can other schools. You know, other schools, I used to be at University of Maryland, they have a particular center, the Dingman Center within the business school, right? So different universities, I think, are set up in different ways. If any of you want to connect, I'm very open to that. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
So what type of programs are available, whether they're venture-backed, academic, or state-backed ventures, for more seasoned executives to come in and serve as advisors for these fledgling companies? Those who have already gone through the rodeo, so to speak, and now can provide their insight and guidance and connections.
ConsciousVentureLab.com. Go online and sign up. We're always looking for mentors. We've got about 120 mentors in the program for the accelerator right now. We're proud that, you know, lots of really well-known names. Our first mentor was Tom Gardner, CEO of the Motley Fool. But we've got 120, but we're always looking for mentors because we agree with you that no better talent. I mean, I've been at this for a long time, but no better talent than someone else who's been through the race before. So that's one way to get involved. And there's a bunch of accelerators. Social Innovation Lab at Hopkins. There's all sorts of accelerators, Ignite Capital. So I think that if you're in that, you know, an executive who's had a business, still doing it, but want to get involved in the early stage in the startup world, that's easy to find here. Really easy to find here. Just yeah, okay.
I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, just real quickly. I mean, very similar. TEDCO has loan executives programs and EIRs available. You know, Jeff said it earlier. We bet on the jockey. You're an additional jockey on the horse. Not that that's a good analogy, because that's probably going to slow it down. But
trainer, yeah.
Yeah, but certainly there. And I think you connect with one. You're probably going to connect with all those groups. So seek out any of us.
MTC VMS.
Oh, go ahead.
And MTC VMS, also give them a shout out.
I'll also add our angel investor group, Meta Angels, is still ongoing, and we often have folks who've been through the rodeo asking to advise startups as they come and pitch. So you're welcome to check us out as well. So we have most of the angel investor members are from the obviously healthcare sector. Many are physician investors, some from industry, so forth. So that network in and of itself, they seem to enjoy the camaraderie amongst themselves too. So there's an option.
Great, thank you. I think
I was just going to plug a couple of resources. Oh, thank you. As a founder who's received investment from TEDCO, from Dingman, and has benefited from resources that the Carey School of Business offers. I run Femly, a feminine care company that has dispensers and bathrooms around the world. And we leveraged the Johns Hopkins Scope-a-thon to have a one-day access to like world-class MBA and like finance students who helped us refine our go-to-market strategy, which saw us through a transition from direct sales to a restroom leasing model, which I think is the thing that will get us exited. We also used the community consulting lab, which provided valuable resources for like building our team and IP strategy. I have used the loan executive program with TEDCO and love it. And so I think that like one of the assets that you guys particularly offer is uncomparable access to like resources that really help you as a founder build capacity and like refine the company. And I see this more in Baltimore than I've seen anywhere else.
Thank you for plugging our programs here at the Carey Business School. But it's not only great for all you founders and as you're building up your company, it's also great for our students as well and the experience that they get. So win-win.
Our CFOs are MBA students.
Yeah, what's the state of capital? Are we seeing capital loosen up for investing here as economic changes have seen the thing hold here? And what's your view maybe 6 to 12 months down the road?
Great question. Who wants to take that?
Yeah, and are you talking about, you're talking about life sciences, right? Biotech.
I'm talking more general.
Oh, okay. They haven't trended generally together. It's gotten better, but biotech actually has been pacing well. So yay. As for other areas, not so much, I would say, med tech. It's still, it plummeted the most out of all. Med devices pretty much stable, although on the lower end. Biotech is coming back up. So it's different per sector. Yeah, I'd say that.
Any other?
I would just say something overall about the state of capital. You said something earlier about companies meeting milestones, and that's, I can't tell you how important that is right now. Execution is the thing that matters. We tell all of our firms that the best venture capital is a new customer. When you really don't want money from me, you want money from someone who's paying for your product, because capital is getting really hard right now overall, right? The FTC and the Department of Justice are looking at M&A. They're going down market, so looking at smaller deals, which is tampering down M&A activity globally. I think the most recent data we have, the Fortune 500, the number of deals, M&A deals that they've done shrank by something like 25 or 30% year over year, but the value of those deals went up. What does that mean? They're looking at bigger deals. So earlier stage companies that means valuations are compressing, and it's harder for funds like ours anyway, the smaller funds, to raise capital because we're not participating in those large deals. High interest rates, tamp down IPOs. So all of those things are really impacting the earliest stage. So for founders, you got to really, really focus on execution. When you set up a set of milestones, if you have to meet them. We have actually turned down companies that are in our portfolio for follow-on investing because we said, you set the milestones, tell us what they are. If you meet them, we'll follow on. They did not meet them. We're like, we are sticking to our knitting. We're going to put that money where we think it's going to be most valuable for our LPs. So you have to hit your milestones. I think that for others in the room, or either who are potential investors or investors, we need that money to get off the sidelines too. So I think that's the state that we see is a little bit more complex. Looks like that.
I think, it's not a nuclear winter for venture, but it's pretty darn cold right now. Unless, like Jeff was saying, unless the M&A and IPO market opens up, there's so much trapped capital in the portfolio. Nobody's going to do any more investing. But I wonder about the breaking up big tech, what that would do to us as a community. I think, you're talking about FTC, really going downstream on that. I think they're also looking at the Metas and looking at breaking that up. And for us, I think that's a good thing because there's more competition. Big tech kills small tech. And so I think there's some really, interest rates are going to come down. It's going to open up the IPO market. M&A is going to start to increase. I think it's gonna, but I think there's also that big FTC shadow on the horizon.
100%.
Depending on the administration, right?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Although I think the FTC chair was, she's been there for 3 presidents. Is that right? Anyway,
yeah.
Don't
see.
talk politics.
So in the back there, I think is our next question.
Good morning. Danielle Christine Toussaint, founder of Purple House. It's a creative intelligence agency. And my question is about where you're seeing opportunities at the intersection of the creative economy and technology. I know a lot of the panel is focused on technology as it relates to sort of bio and health science, but Baltimore in particular is also home to a very vibrant, creative community. There's so much entrepreneurship. We have, sort of a world-class art institute. And I was just there last week with a lot of students talking about all of the other ways where there's like an earlier bar, sort of an easier and lower bar to entry for creatives, and the creator economy is really accelerating. And so I'm just curious where you see the opportunity to invest there so that we can sort of grow that ecosystem that's local.
Okay.
Come on, Deborah, answer your question.
So
I can comment on it too.
I think that we spend a lot of time in the creative economy. We helped run an accelerator at MICA. And I think that if you want to be a creative and stay pure in the creative economy, it's really difficult for the venture community to help, because we spend a lot of time educating our founders about why venture capital works the way it does. And a lot of it has to do with how do we return money to the people who give it to us to invest, right? So simply said, the exit opportunities for pure creative companies they're few and far between depending on what they're doing. I think that the opportunity, in my opinion, for creative companies is for them to add that creativity to other things. I'll give you an example. We think that Baltimore, particularly Baltimore, can become an epicenter of things like smart textiles, because you have MICA, you have Hopkins with the hospital and medical, you have Under Armour, and you have all these things about wearables and how do we understand what's happening with our body. We think that if creators, sort of expand their vision a little bit of how they can bring their creativity to other industries, we think that's sort of the way to go for us.
This is way out of my wheelhouse, but I'm going to try to say something here. Because my daughter is a fine arts major at Parsons School of Design. She went way the other side of the family. But watching her, no, she's the creative. We're the analytical. Watching her and all the students and millennials and so on and so forth. New York is a vibrant, obviously, community, and there are venture ecosystems there. The digitization of art is one area where scalability is possible. And I can just do the math of it and see how that may be attractive. It's not an area I invest in, but I think maybe that particular niche could be fostered more. As for straight art, fine art, that I don't know how to speak to that part. But yeah, digitization, possibly.
All right, and I'll comment on, the fourth thing that we look for at my firm, and that is the exit. What is the exit strategy? And Jeff alluded to this also. If you want to bring in venture capital money, what type of exit can you deliver, and what type of returns can you deliver back to the investors? So starting with the end in mind about what that opportunity is and what the end goal is a way to think about it, as you begin to seek out additional capital coming in. For us, our companies to have a first conversation with us, they have to at least show us how they can get a 10x. Okay, look, since we're a VC firm, we want more than that. I mean, look, we want 100x. Who doesn't? Okay, we're very open about that. But for us, the barrier is 10x to get in. So as you seek out capital, it's just a good understanding of what the investor wants in return. What type of multiple are they looking for? And then once you have that base, then you can know if it's a good fit, and if you can pursue that option.
Ashton, I think you were keeping track here. Thank you.
Hi, Mia Horm. What recommendations do you all give to founders who approach for potential funding with you to prepare on the legal side for IP protection? I'm specifically wondering about those who are building on large language models. Can you talk a little bit about how they should navigate that before they come to you? Like what resources maybe they should tap into?
Yeah, so for us, we do expect a freedom to operate to have been conducted by a national firm, but we're looking more towards Series A as our target, and we know some of the earlier companies may not have a robust freedom to operate in place, or may not have all their ducks in a row in terms of their patents fully executed. But for the first stop, there are clinics around me, going back to like very beginning, securing just provisionals and getting a patent strategy in place. You don't have to spend, $100,000 right up front. But if you do have a small budget for legal, I mean, that could go a long way, especially if you can leverage like clinics and other maybe attorneys who can work on deferral and other arrangements like that to get a certain foundation in place as you begin to build out your own patent portfolio and considering what type of patents you can get there.
Yeah, I think, next with Shulman Rogers would be a good place just to, I know some of the work that they do. You're welcome.
Yeah, and they have flat rate services.
But I worry about LLM, AI, the curated data. As an investor, I feel like that is really speed of execution and less about copyright and patent around that. I mean, there's a lot of patent law around copywriting a process, a software process, and the complications associated with that. Preserving your curated data is probably the biggest thing. And Lord knows the data that we see, garbage in, garbage out, right? And if we can figure out a way to do a blockchain wrap around the data and know the provenance of the data, especially for healthcare models, that's huge, right? So I think that's the approach I would take with an attorney is, look, this is not a patent like you would see with a therapeutic drug or a medical device. This is more a copyright and go down that path. And again, I'm looking at speed of execution because it's going to be really dynamic who gets to market first.
Okay, time for one last question.
Hi.
Sorry.
Oleg Shinkush from Chromaton. I presented earlier. Pleasure to be here.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oleg Shinkush, I'm CEO of Chromaton, presented earlier. I have a question about more on the side of the life science market and how you guys treat non-dilutive capital and what is the impact of non-dilutive capital on how you view company valuation, as well as kind of the chance, as well as kind of the chances of companies that have that significant expertise versus companies that don't.
Can I start, because this will be interesting to see going down the chain. So we might be first dollar in for $150,000, $200,000 as an investment. We're looking at the non-dilutive capital as, you've really done a great job of moving that technology along. I will tell you, we don't sweat valuations very much because we're so early on. We know the valuation's going to change. So that, we don't really bake that non-dilutive funding into the valuation of the company. But I'm going to pass it off just like I would any other investment.
Yeah, no, we love it. I mean, we love to see it. I mean, we haven't invested in a company that hasn't had. I don't know the amount, but at least $500,000 in non-dilutive funding. So we love to see it for us. It's a good signal. It's a good marker. It's so expensive bringing, especially in the medical space, so expensive bringing these. And so bringing in non-dilutive capital is really, that's the way to go.
We don't do a lot of life sciences, but I will say that the way that we think about that is what's the price of incremental certainty? So dilutive capital should allow you to sort of compress that, right? So to lower the risk for your next investor. Taking that money, here's how I've lowered your risk. If you've done that, then the impact on valuation can be, it's less risky now, right? If you haven't done it, if you haven't used that capital to actually lower the risk, it's a great signal, right? It might be, okay, we appreciate the fact that others are interested, but I would say focus on using that capital to lower the risk for the next investor.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then if you got non-dilutive capital, then what did you do with it? Did you meet your milestones? Maybe you got rad X, but then you missed phase 2. I mean, so yeah, great point.
So with us, we of course love non-dilutive because it gives us even more piece of the pie, right? and besides the validation, but I have seen companies use it both ways in terms of valuation. Because they've gotten a lot of non-dilutive, they can afford to lower the valuation to help bring in capital, which makes it attractive for investors. But they have to balance not lowering it so much that it's like, what's the matter with you? You know, you should be worth much more. I've seen them play it to their advantage very nicely. So it's not like one on top of the other, right? 100 from SBIR, 100 from, you know, investors, 1+1. Not quite that way, but I have seen people play with it very cleverly, and we get it and we appreciate it. But in the back of our minds, yes, there's less dilution for everybody all around. Great scientific validation probably as well. We know so, yes. That's what we see it.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. Well, I see Jen standing up, so that's our sign. Get off the stage, but thank you to all of our panelists.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Ashton. Where are you? Thank you for all your help here. And our next event is November 20th in College Park. Stay tuned for that, followed by December 16th in Tyson's Corner. And we are doing our monthly virtual events. So please feel free to scan the QR codes at our table and you can register for free. Thank you so much, Dean. And we have the room for another 45 minutes or so. Thank you, guys.